Hello everyone! I hope you all are doing well today. Thanks for joining me here in the chat for a little impromptu live stream. I'm sorry that I've been away for so long. Just finding it difficult to settle into a good groove, but I'm happy to spend a little bit of the afternoon with you. We're going to do a live swatch with me. Hello to everyone in the chat. I see lots of people saying hello from rainy areas. It's rainy here too in Austin today, so you're in good company. And I figured we'd go ahead and do the swatch with me again for M. Graham, because that is actually kind of what kicked off when I realized I was using the wrong paper in the first run, was the M. Graham video. And I don't know why it's taken me so long to get back to it, but I thought it would be fun to finally do that. Yeah. Aw, thank you guys all for being here. It's great to see you. So I'm a little rusty at this. Feel free to chime in with any questions that you might have in the chat or ask me to change things. I do have a little bit of a different streaming setup since the last time you saw me live stream. I do have a more stable camera so that the table shaking shouldn't happen. However, this is as close as I can zoom in. I'm zoomed in the max amount that I am able to for the camera, so I do apologize that's still a little far away. Hopefully if you have a computer or a TV screen or something larger, you can see the colors a little bit better, but I'm sorry for the mobile viewers. And hey Cynthia. Hey Cynthia, do you mind if I put a mod title on you? Would that be okay? I'm gonna do it. You can tell me if you want me to revoke it. That's the only trouble with impromptu live streams, is that I didn't tell anyone, which means I don't have any mods in here. So here we go. Cynthia should be set up, can help us out if she wants to, but no pressure, and don't feel like you have to stay here the whole time if you want to duck out. I'm sure some of our other friends will come visit us along the way. Hey, Steven. Natasha. Ooh, Natasha, do you want a mod too? I can make you a mod. These are two of my long-standing patrons here, Natasha and Cynthia, so thank you both for being here. All right. So I had one question come up asking why there's so little paint in some of the pans. That is because some of these I were sent as samples. So some people sent them in dot cards or some other format, and I scraped them into a pan, but I hardly have any of them, but I don't have any tubes. Please remember, if you can, to put the word question in all caps if you have a question, and the rest of your question in regular font, and I'll try and get to as many of them as I can. And hold on 1 second, because Cricket is about to use the litter box, and it's going to be real loud. Still haven't figured out a better setup for that yet, but she's right across the hall. Yeah, so it's great to see all you. Feel free to ask questions along the way. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I really just wanted an excuse to hang out with you guys. The swatching is a nice side effect of that, but it's been a long time and I feel really bad for being gone for so long, so I really just want to hang out with you guys. For those of you watching the replay of this, it is going to be pretty slow going. We're going to be talking in the chat a lot. You should be able to see the chat in the replay, so everyone in the chat, make sure you know that your comments will still be seen on that. And I think we'll be good to go. I'm just going to try and make sure I can catch up the best that I can. Will there be discounts on paints and brushes in Jackson's? I can't answer that. I don't work with Jackson's. I have affiliate links with them, but I'm not like officially with them or anything. They do tend to have a lot of sales around the holidays. And for those of you who have been around the channel for a while, you might remember the past 2 years, Eve, Sade, Carrie, and I have done gift guides every year for the holidays, and we are planning on doing that again this year. So if you stay tuned, they'll go up on Black Friday, and we'll give you our takes on watercolor gifts and color pencil gifts depending on our channels. We have US, Canada, Europe. We'll get you covered. Great to see everyone. I don't know what the discounts are gonna be. I can't give you that. I have no insider information there. You guys excited for the holidays? We just finished up Halloween. We're officially in November. Thanksgiving in the US is a bit late this year, so that means there's gonna be a short stretch between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I always like the longer stretch and soak up all the holidays I can, but it's good to see you guys too. Yeah, I love doing, sorry, just knocking off my desk. I love doing the gift guides every year. I try and make them different, at least on my end every year, and try and give you new ideas so you can go back watch the old ones too, and just have it be a lot of fun. How do I deal with color lifting from your paper when you're wetting at areas or adding a glaze on top of a color? So that's kind of a loaded question. There are colors that lift more easily than others, and some that are more staining than others. But if you're consistently having trouble with your colors lifting, it might be your paper. So cellulose papers and heavily sized papers that are cotton will lift more easily than papers that are cotton and unsized. So just play around with your papers and see if you can find one that you like. I have an older video at this point. It's a two-parter ultimate watercolor paper comparison video. I still owe you guys the top 10 or top 5 top paper video, so that is on my list of things to do. But yeah, just try and play around with your supplies. Am I going home for the holidays? I am. I'm very excited to be able to see everyone. I have eraser shavings in my paint wall. Let's try and get this guy out of here. Gosh. So for those of you who don't know Graham as well, they are a very, very sticky watercolor. They're made with honey. And once you have them in a palette, they're gonna stay there. I have a couple colors that are in like a weird chromatic order in this palette, but I didn't want to change them just because it would get all over the place. Thank you guys all for being here and for your sweet comments and everything. We've got 85 people so far in the chat. If you are watching this video, if you do like this content, give it a like. It'll help out so that other people can find the video. I know YouTube's been really weird with notifications lately. If you're not getting notifications, I was about to paint the wrong color. If you're not getting notifications, make sure you hit the bell icon and choose that you'd like to be reminded. If you're here this early, I assume that you were reminded, so that's a good sign. How do I dispose of my paint water and clean up my rags? So I try and let my paint settle if I'm using heavy metals or heavy pigments in particular. And then I will pour off the water and wipe out the solids and throw those away versus just putting it all down the drain. And I save my rags and I just put them through the washer by themselves. I know it's not perfect, but it's better for me, I think, than just throwing away a ton of paper towels. I use these pretty heavily. I just put one in a laundry bin that had been, I'd been using it for like 2 weeks and it was just completely, every surface was covered in paint. So that would have been a lot of paper towels. Oh, I'm missing someone's question. Hold on. Notice that a lot of YouTubers haven't covered color shift. Can you go more in depth? So for that, it depends on the pigment. It does depend on the brand somewhat. I haven't specifically studied color shift in particular. I just know that certain brands do and don't have that, and certain colors do and don't have that. So I would recommend checking out the Color Spotlight series, where we talk a lot about the different pigment properties. I think it has more to do with the pigments than it does the brands. But chime in chat if you have a different opinion of that. Hi, Pat and Dawn. Good to see you. What's my take on watercolor ground? Asked Christine. I have used it before. I enjoy being able to paint on surfaces like wood. However, it doesn't paint quite like paper. So, did I mix this one up? Are you guys watching? I think I pulled the wrong color. Well, darn. Oh well. Maybe I didn't. I got sidetracked. Okay, watercolor ground. I really like being able to put paint on different surfaces, but it's not the same as painting on paper, and I just prefer painting on paper. So I like it as a novelty. I like it if I have a specific vision or project in mind. I have watercolor ground here that one of our wonderful viewers, Grace, sent to me a while back from the Daniel Smith store, and I still need to use that. So I'm excited to try that out more. I keep meaning to do a video and just haven't been able to get to it. Tiffany is here. Hi, Tiffany. You're such a peach. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Natasha. And all the mods, I just want to say again, don't feel like you have to stay here. You can pop in and pop out however you want, but I'm so grateful for your help. I really appreciate it. I know it's kind of a weird time. I meant to do the live stream earlier, but I was going to do one thing and then that changed. Now I'm doing another thing, so I had to prep the new thing. The question is the 151 pigment similar to 154? It is. So this is Azo Yellow. Actually, that's not right. 150. No, I'm thinking of 150. Sorry. I was thinking of Nickel Azo Yellow. It is very similar. I think the PY97 is more similar to 154. I know we usually go over these color by color, but since I'm keeping up with the chat this time, I'll go over them kind of at the end just so that I don't lose track of everything. Welcome, Adrian. Yeah, what Mistress X said. So 151 is slightly on the cooler side. 97 is a little closer. I'm trying to look at the color you have. It looks good in my my streaming software, but it looks a little bit washed out on the stream. How do you guys feel about where the color and the saturation is at for this video? I try not to mess with this too much on stream, but I'm gonna mess a little bit because I want you to be able to see a nice picture there. Is this any better? Wait for it to catch up. That's what I thought. So I did, I put a wash of New Gamboge and then I went back and put PY110 on top of this wash. So this one is not accurate. I apologize for that. I will, after the stream, we can put it on another card. I'll stitch the digital images together and then put the correct color up on my Patreon, which is what I do with all these videos, is that I will put the scans up on Patreon afterwards. I'll put a link in the description below so you can find them. They're free for anyone to view, and then you can check out the Patreon while you're over there if you want. All right, hopefully we're reset with our color. I don't know if that helped at all. MG's Indian Yellow is the new formula DS uses for the permanent yellow. Yeah, 110. I've seen that a couple times. I can't remember. Isn't there a discolored one? Is it 110 that's discontinued? Or is it a different one? Guys, I am so rusty. I was just talking to Tori last night over at Juicy Ink, and I was saying how long it's been since I've done like a proper review and pigment videos. I've been wanting to paint, and I hope you guys can relate to that. I've done so many years of reviews on the channel, and I just have wanted to paint, and I've had a really hard time getting motivated to do reviews, but I know you guys love to see them, so they're still on my to-do list, and I'm sorry that I've been dragging my feet about it. I've just been having a lot of fun creating, and I want to try and ride that creative energy. Here we have Azo Orange, one of Tiffany's favorite colors, right? 153, thank you, Stephen. 153 was discontinued, so I think PY 110 is something that's coming up a lot to replace that color, question mark. Where do I get my empty half pans? I haven't purchased empty half pans in a long time, but I think the last time I did, I got them on Amazon. Meeden sells, if you go to like where the Meeden empty tins are, they'll have options just to buy the pans, and I think that's where I got them. If not, Jackson's also sells them. I have links in the description for affiliate links, specifically for Graham paints on Amazon and Jackson's. If you guys are interested in checking that out, if you buy anything through those links, it helps out the channel without costing you anything more. You guys know the spiel, right? Do we YouTubers still need to say all that? Then we have Cadmium Orange, not a favorite of mine. I stay away from the cadmium colors, but I do believe that Mary Sanch has a video on this color. I could be wrong, that she uses it really well. And Jenny Granberry has a video on Cadmium Orange from not too long ago, I think, if I'm not misremembering. The brush that I'm using, I forgot to link that in the description. This is the Jackson's Studio Synthetic. Size 1/2 inch. This is my favorite swatching brush these days. Are Graham paints similar to Mission Gold Pure Pigment watercolors in terms of consistency and flow? They're similar. Both brands are sticky in the pan, but I think that Graham is a bit smoother. Both of them have a really high pigment load, and you have to make sure that you're not using too much of them or they will overpower a piece. Yeah, we got a few more people chiming in about half pans for those who were asking. Thank you to everyone here. We're at over 100 viewers right now. It's super exciting. Hope you all are having a wonderful afternoon or evening or even morning, I suppose, depending on what part of the world you're in. I would like to know what you all want to see. I was just talking about wanting to do more creative pieces and having a hard time with reviews. The reviews I know are what a lot of you are here for. What do you want to see on the channel? What are some things that you've been missing or curious about? I can't promise that I will be able to enact on every one of them, but I'd love to hear what you are looking for. It'd be really helpful when I plan a calendar. We have an AAC video next week, so if you're new to the channel, Animal Artist Collective, we do videos every other month, and our next theme is reptiles. So we finally get to paint some reptiles, and you're welcome to join in the community as well. If you look at any of the past AAC videos, you can find out on how to tag us so that we can find your artwork. Hello, Sweden. Oh, thank you, Mashi. Mashi or Moshi? Either or, thank you. I'm glad that you like seeing my work. It's like a love-hate relationship when, not love-hate, love-discouragement relationship with the purely creative videos. I really enjoy doing them, and those who watch them enjoy watching them, and I get really nice feedback from them, but the views just really hit my analytics hard, which sucks that, you know, as a YouTuber, we have to pay attention to that to some degree, or our views just don't get pushed forward to our viewers. So I do like doing the time-lapse pieces when I can, and oftentimes they are folded into the other videos. So there'll be a review, and then there'll be a painting, or there'll be a color spotlight video, and there'll be a painting. And that way I can still use that creative outlet while getting you some useful information. I missed a bunch of the chat while answering that question. Oh, I missed a lot of that. All right, let's see. You guys all answered at once. video describing your techniques and process to make a piece. If you're curious, I know not everyone on YouTube is, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do live real-time tutorial, or not the recorded live real-time tutorials over on Patreon, where I do my complete, like, top to bottom, you watch the entire painting and can paint along with me videos. Otherwise, I try and incorporate it when I can into the channel. The Frosty Girl said that she enjoyed the Perylene Green dinosaur skull that I did. That was a YouTube, not a YouTube, that was a Patreon video. So that is a real-time video over on Patreon at the $5 tier. So if you enjoyed that painting over on Instagram, you can definitely check out that video. It was a lot of fun to paint. Dahlia, thank you so much for your kind words on the last AAC piece. That means a lot to me. I'm trying to scroll through the chat here, guys. Sorry. Hannah, I have an old video for Quinacridone Rose. It's one of my first color spotlight videos, but you can look that up if you're interested in seeing it. Cajun Sunshine Crafts, that's a secret. No worries at all. It's just I was able to tell patrons, but it's not public information yet. So if you want, ask me again over on Patreon and I can answer your question. Thank you, Tiffany. Will I be showing off a close-up of the chart when I'm done? I will post a scan over on Patreon. If you missed the beginning of the stream, I have a new setup. That means that I don't have to wobble the camera on you, which is awesome. But I can't zoom in any further right now, unfortunately. So I'll post the final video or the final chart over on Patreon after the video's done. Hi from Indonesia. It's real late there. Thanks for chiming in. I want to do another collab too. It's been ages since I've done a collaboration with another YouTuber. I think I've got to get on Jenny's case since we're both local to Austin now. White Nights has new colors. Yeah, I've seen the new colors. I've seen a couple other YouTubers do videos on them. I don't have plans to pick up more paint at the moment. So one of the hardest things about balancing reviews and video content is that over the first like 2.5 years or so that I was on YouTube, I amassed an enormous amount of paint, which is not a bad problem to have, but I just have so much of it that it feels really wasteful to continue to get more and more supplies, and I don't want to add to a waste problem just to do reviews. So if I'm genuinely interested in a product, I will pick that up and be able to show that to you, but I don't want to just purchase paint for the sake of purchasing paint. Thanks, Tiffany, for linking that video. No worry, Cajun Sunshine. Do you have something shorter you want me to call you? I don't know what you want me to use in chat. It's totally fine. You weren't, I think it was during your break on Patreon that I mentioned, but there is a Patreon post if you want to go back and look at it, or I can just answer more directly if you send me a reminder. I'll forget because I have fibro fog, but if you ask me, I'm happy to answer. All right, I'm caught up on chat now. Sorry that took a while. Okay, Pat. We'll go with Pat. It's shorter. All right, Pyrrol Red is up next. Make sure I'm using the right pan. So far, I just want to go over my general thoughts on Engram paints. I've used them a lot less lately than I used to. I find that a lot of their yellows are very similar. Like they have a lot of cool option yellows that can be a little bit confusing. I would just say pick whichever one you like. I don't think it matters too terribly much. There's a bunch of gunk all over that paintbrush. I don't know what happened there. My paint containers or my water containers are too dirty. They've got a large range of warm yellows and oranges as well. And then in their red line, they have an issue where they don't have a lot of pink. So there's like maybe 2 pinks that they have, but there's not like a true magenta. So from what I've heard from other people, that those are kind of like the main complaints for Engram. They do have an amazing assortment and a gorgeous assortment of blues and greens. So you can count on them for those color families for sure. PR254 is one of my favorite basic reds. It's just an old reliable. We've got a color spotlight on that one as well. I'm using Arch's 140 pound cold press paper for this, so we're using a nice cotton paper. That'll show off the colors better than when I did it before on the cellulose paper. Tiffany does rock. She's amazing, and I really appreciate it. I must have missed a question about Primatex, so I apologize, but Tiffany is on top of it. Tiffany, how is life treating you up in the Pacific Northwest? Are you loving it? Is it beautiful? I'm jealous of your fall. Oh wow, your local art supply gifted you some Graham paints. It's incredible. Yes, they are insanely different from Winsor and Newton, just night and day. And that's why when people ask about which brand you should have, I can't answer that question because I don't know what everyone's personal style is. And I also slightly disagree with the statement that all professional brands are the same. All professional brands are going to be good in different ways, but they definitely differ in my opinion. And, you know, Core is so vastly different than anything else. Winsor & Newton is going to be like a really standard, reliable paint, but juiciness like can't be topped when it comes to Graham. Hi, Lee. Hi, Hannah. All right. What is my main focus for my channel moving forward? I want to continue to make educational content that is useful for all of you, while focusing not only on the supplies, but also stressing the importance of painting. So I think early on in my channel, I was really excited and excitable, and I just wanted to try everything that there was. And I'm very grateful for the time that I was able to spend with my supplies so I could get to know them really, really well and feel confident with them. But I also think that I got a little bit lost in that. And something that I would like to impart upon new watercolors too is that you don't have to have all the best supplies. You should know what they do. You should know what they're capable of. You should know that if you're not jiving well with watercolors, a lot of people get discouraged just because they're using supplies that they, you know, they haven't found the right supplies for themselves yet. I want to be a good resource for that, but I also want to make sure that we don't get stuck in the fear of creating and that we, you know, still paint, and don't let being afraid of your supplies hold you back, because the only way you're going to grow and get better as an artist is by painting. Is that an okay answer? Is it true that Graham's Quin Rose is not as transparent as their Quin Red? Oh, their Quin Red's here. This looks washed out, and so does this. I thought I got decent samples, but we might want to do another glaze over those just so we can get the full effect of it. I would say PR209 in general is just a very transparent color. I don't think that their PV19 is any less transparent than you would expect, other than the fact that Graham and Mission Gold tend to have heavily pigmented paints, which means they're going to be more prone to being less transparent because they're more dense than other ones. You can fix that by adding more water though. So this is still a transparent color, just PR209 is a more transparent color than PV19. Hope that helps. When was the last time I used student or cheap quality watercolors? For like a painting, it's been a little while. I still have my Cotman set. But with how many paints I have on hand, I don't find a reason to use those very much unless I'm specifically crafting reviews for you guys. I do still like Van Gogh and White Nights are professional quality, but on the cheaper end of things, those are my go-tos when it comes to lower price point. Thanks again, Tiffany. I'm just gonna be thanking Tiffany the whole time for answering people's questions that I missed. I missed a lot. Oh my gosh, what is happening? Okay. I can't wait to come visit you, Tiffany. It'll be wonderful. Yep, same thing. Jellybean Phoebe saying the weather's last week was in the 40s and now it's the low 70s. It was like in the 40s and 50s here in Austin, and then it was 80 degrees yesterday. I think it's supposed to be cooler today, but it's all over the place. Oh, I'm sorry that you don't have Imgram available in your local store. They're not available everywhere. They're available in my local stores that I've been to, but they are a little bit more of a niche paint. You can always ask your local art store if they could consider carrying it if it's something that you want. And sometimes when they get enough requests, they might actually do it. Yes, Stephen is correct that the PR254 and PV19 would make a really good split primary, or these two, either way. You got a warm red and a cool red for sure. Hello, welcome. Wow, we're up to 130. Cool. Mashi, my sister, lives in Colorado, and she's just saying the weather is constantly ping-ponging. It went, a couple weeks ago here in Austin, it went from 90-degree high one day to 45 high the next day, which was new for me. It doesn't do that in California. And I look forward to the moments of fall that we do get, so I'm never, like, I haven't complained about it yet, about it being cold. The one thing I hate here is that I don't like the wind. I've never liked the wind, and it is windy in Austin. So when it gets cold here, it feels really cold because the wind is usually pretty strong. Yeah, overseas, they're definitely harder to find Imgram in stores. So depending on where you're trying to find them, that can definitely be a factor. Here we have Maroon Perylene. Everyone else calls it Perylene Maroon. I'm not sure why it's opposite in Imgram's line, but it is a beautiful color, PR179. And the Alizarin Crimson is also a gorgeous color. This is a PR264. It's a really nice deep red. Do you think beginner less is more, like less colors? Ooh, Arlie's here. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Joe. Oh, Joe's here too. I think that a beginner should have a somewhat limited palette. There are certainly, I think you should learn color theory because it's really important to understand why colors act certain ways and be able to mix colors that you want. But then you can add colors of convenience. I've got Skillshare classes on both of those, both on color mixing and creating custom palettes. I would definitely say I would recommend not getting a 48 color set for a beginner just because it's going to be too many options. It's going to be really easy to muddy up your colors or to use too many competing colors in the same painting. So I certainly think that you should spend time researching color theory and making sure that you're using a cohesive palette. But I also don't think that you need to stick to 3 colors. I obviously love color. That's what my channel is all about. So I'm not going to discourage you from getting colors that bring you joy because there are a lot of colors that I love working with that are not part of a basic primary set. I'm just catching up on chat here. Y'all are awesome. Arlisha and I did do a collaboration. Dee Dee said that we should do a collaboration. We did an elf and crow collab. You can find it. I have a collab on my main YouTube page. It should take you to that. I think Arlie's the last person I did a collab with. Oh, there was one more after that. I think I did a collab with Hajra after that. But it was so much fun. I would totally do another collaboration if Arlie wanted to, but my chat keeps like bumping around. I'm like trying to scroll through everything and it keeps getting jostled. Isn't Arlisha wonderful? If you guys don't know about her channel, which I don't know how that's possible, but go check it out. She has a wonderful channel. What's my take on homemade watercolors? Do I like using them? If so, do I have a favorite? I love using handmade watercolors for specific pieces. Specifically, I find that they do really well with wildlife because they're usually natural-based colors. I think they're a lot of fun. I get a little bit more nervous about selling artwork made from handmade paints if I haven't done the appropriate light fastness test here. And I actually realized the other day I haven't done a light fastness test since I've lived in Austin. I only have north-facing windows in my apartment, so I don't think anything that I would do would be helpful here. I'm not going to stay here past when my lease is up, so I will specifically look for an apartment that has better lighting just in general, but I will also keep that in mind so I can get back to doing light fastness tests as well. Steven says that you can have a lot of colors without using them all in every painting. Absolutely, but the question was about beginners, and I think when a beginner gets this many colors, you can get overwhelmed and want to just use them all. Not all, but like, oh, I need this color, I need that color. So instead of learning how to mix, you rely on the more options. I clearly have a ton of paint, and I will use my M-gram palette, but then only maybe use 5 or 6 colors out of it for a painting. So that's a good thing to mention. How is Cricket feeling? She is good. She had a dental earlier this week and she hates going to the vet, but she bounced right back up. She didn't have to have any extractions, so that is great. Tiffany's still on top of it. She's amazing. Oh, I'll do a collab with you anytime, Marlisha. You just let me know. Okay, you guys, I keep falling behind on chat, so I'm just gonna let it go. If I missed your question and you want to ask again, you feel free to copy and paste your question. Mods, just know that I've put out that ask for that just because I don't want to sit here the entire time looking through chat and never catching up. So, am I staying in Austin or will I look at surrounding areas? Yes. Asterisk. I still have a few months to decide. I've got some personal stuff going on, so we'll see. I'm not too keen on leaving the area just because I'm a creature of habit and I don't like moving around a lot, but I'm not staying in this apartment, that's for sure, and we'll see exactly where I land when the time comes. What do I think about Lucas Watercolor brand? They're good. I think if you have them, there's no reason not to use them. I think that I have other brands that I like better. And I'm sorry that I never got around to putting a review up on the channel for them. I have used them. I used the tubes and they weren't my favorite. I think the pan sets, from what I've heard, are better. So I've never used the pan sets though. Have I met up with Texas Wild Colors? I haven't, but I saw, was it Eve that did a video on those paints the other day? I haven't talked to him at all. I don't know who he is other than I saw him on Eve's channel. With a limited palette, what would be the best warm blue? Rhonda, I hate to give you a generic answer, but I can't answer the best question. And hopefully those of you who watch the channel understand I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to like be evasive. It just depends on what you like. That being said, if you want a warm dark blue, my favorite is Anthraquinone Blue from M-gram, which we'll see here in just a few moments. My favorite light warm blue is a cerulean. So it really depends on your personal preferences, but those are my favorites. Oh, thank you. I've got the sparkly nails. They are rose gold, and I'm not really a glitter or gold or hollow person, but Jenny Granberry, if she's watching, who lives here in Austin, we've met up quite a few times since I've been here. She got me hooked on this company called Cirque Colors, and they do like vegan, friendly, animal cruelty free nail polish, and it's the best nail polish I've ever used and I'm super addicted to it. So yeah, you should see more colors in the future from that brand popping up here on the channel because I have a problem and I've purchased way too many of them. Oh, thanks. I do have an old favorite blues video. I've been thinking about, see, this is the problem. I have so much content I want to make for you guys. And then I also want to like revisit old videos. So like I want to do the top 5 series again and give you an update because my favorites have changed in a lot of cases. But if I just keep remaking content, it's going to be like remaking all the movies and like, you guys want to see new stuff too, right? Hey, Dan, it's good to see you. Can I recommend a non-granulating version of Ultramarine pink? I don't know of one. Anyone in chat, can you help out with the non-granulating ultramarine pink question? It's a pretty unique color. It's definitely on the purpley side versus like a potter's pink would be more pinkish, but both of those colors granulate quite a lot. Question, do I think the mineral violet contains some PV15 to make it granulate a bit rather than shift the hue? It's a good question. I don't have the PV16 on its own, so I don't know off the top of my head how those compare. But I like the mineral violet. I think it's really pretty. Nail Polish Anonymous, where one can register. I have never been a nail polish person before. I had 2 bottles of it starting, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago so that I could paint my nails for the channel and like have them not look like crap, but they were both shades of pink and like really, really basic and not at all assertive, I guess is what I would say for that. And then with this new brand, they have these thermal, the Cert Colors have thermal nail polishes that change from like purple to teal or teal to purple. And like there's one that changes from a bright red to like a blood red. I'm obsessed. They're beautiful and I love them. And I've definitely gotten too many of them. Hey Ian, welcome to the chat. Aw, thanks for mentioning my wildlife palette or my earth-friendly palette with Da Vinci. I do have a palette with them and I have been using it a lot lately and you'll hear more from me on that soon. Oh, thanks Dee Dee. I'm glad you could be here for the first time. Welcome to all the first timers. Glad you could be here. I had so much fun putting together that palette with Da Vinci, and the turquoise is a huge favorite of mine. It's taken over my Phthalo Blue spot in just about every palette that I make these days. I know, Joe. This color is less light fast, but the vibrancy is pretty crazy. This does look really diluted and I'll have to, am I like centered? I'm on a delay and so I can't see. There we go. This one is diluted, so we'll do another glaze so that we can show you it's a little bit brighter, but the Naphthol is a super fire engine red type of color. Aw, thank you, Pat. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you could be here, Dan. I was talking about the time earlier today and I was supposed to get up earlier, or I got up plenty early. I just had some trouble setting up the stream and I was going to do something else and then I switched to doing this, and so I had to make the grid and that always takes forever. So I'm glad I was able to get on before too many of our European friends have to go to bed. Is the nail polish a strong smell? It is a nail polish smell. So when you first open the tube, it is a little bit, thinking of paints. When you open the bottle, it's a bit abrasive. Once it's on your nails, it's totally fine, but I would say that there's an odor when you first open the containers, especially the thermal ones tend to smell pretty strong. I don't know what's in them to make them change color, but Steve asks, why make tube paint into pan paint? I prefer tube to pan. I prefer pan to tube. It's just a personal preference. I don't like working from wet paint. I tend to waste a lot of it, and I can control my quantities better here. I was just reading a question that got pushed off the screen. I'm going to try and go recall it. Have I heard about the new Ukrainian watercolor brand Rosa? I have heard about a new brand of watercolor. I don't remember if it's Ukrainian, and I don't remember the brand name. What's the really dark color next to which one? This is Dioxazine Purple, and this is Anthraquinone Blue. Yeah, that's a good tip for nail polish. Open it in a well-ventilated area with a fan. Get it out of your face. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, that makes me happy that the collab with Arlisha inspired you to paint animals. I am a fan of them. Yes, what Tiffany said, pans are also wonderful for being able to travel, and they're more portable. And I just like having them available. I also hate fiddling with tube lids. I don't like it at all. So I'd prefer just to have it set up, and then I can go for a while until I actually have to refill it. Did I miss Tori? Is Tori here? Tori! Hello! We were just having a nice good chat yesterday. I'm glad you could pop in. For those of you who like a non-granulated ultramarine blue, Imgram is an excellent choice along with Sennelier, both of their ultramarines, and I think it's ultramarine deep from Sennelier, but I could be wrong on that. Both of those have very strongly pigmented, low granulating ultramarines. So for those of you who haven't come around to the granulation side of things. Oh, good, Joe. I'm glad that it has such a high rating on the wool test. I would love to see more early animals as long as it doesn't stress you out. I love your style when you paint animals, but I know that you've said that you've struggled with them in the past. Oh, it's so good to see you all here. I missed you guys so much. I'm sorry that I've been away for so long. Odd question. Since Imgram have so much honey in them, do they act more like semi-moist watercolors when put into pans? I don't know that classification is usually used in professional watercolors, but yes, they stay fairly wet, especially like it's about 50% humidity here most of the time. And like you can see, I haven't touched anything in this column like at all with water, and they still are kind of wet. The only one that dries pretty hard is the Veridian, and that's because of the pigment. So yeah, they are a paint that will not dry hard to the touch. They will always be sticky if you are in a climate that doesn't have like 0% humidity. Honey serves as a humectant, and so it's going to constantly wick moisture out of the air. Funny, not watercolor related, is that I have these gluten-free cookies that are really hard and crispy. It's the brand Tate's. And if you leave the package open here in Texas, they actually get chewier if you leave them out because they draw water from the air, which I think is really funny because if I had left them out back home, they would have gotten even harder, which is just silly. Are there any suggestions on how to start off with watercolor painting? It feels like all my colors are bullying me at the moment. I don't mean to do another promotional statement, but I have some really, really in-depth classes over on Skillshare, and I have a lot of videos here on the channel that you can get a free subscription for 2 months to Skillshare to try those out if you want to. I would recommend a color theory class. I would recommend painting something that you really enjoy painting because it'll be easier for you to keep your concentration. And then here on YouTube, there are a ton of resources from Tori, Juicy Ink, who's in chat, from Arlie, from myself, from The Mind of Watercolor. There's just tons and tons of watercolor artists here on YouTube and lots of free content. So depending on how your learning style is, I love video. I love to soak things in and watch lots and lots of stuff. So that's what I would recommend. Ellen likes to paint birds. I love painting birds too. If you're not adding paints without personal interest to keep the paint overload down as possible, will swatching fall off your channel? That's a good question, Sneaks. So there's only so many brands of paint anyway, so it's always been on my mind to kind of try and pace myself because once I paint all the colors, there's nothing else to do. Color Spotlight, I think, will always have fodder because there's so many pigments that I don't think I could possibly hope to get through them all. So I don't think that'll go anywhere. Swatching, I'm trying to space out as well, and I always want to do things that you want to see, but I don't want to repeat content for the sake of repeating content, so I'll do as much as I'm able to. I'm happy to consider reviewing brands of paint that people asked me to. I have several here that other people have sent, like Renaissance. I had some patrons send Renaissance paints for me to look at, and I haven't done those yet, so that'll be coming at some point in the future. I just have to get my butt back in gear and get a little bit of inspiration. I feel very strongly that I want to produce content that I enjoy producing so that that comes across. And I haven't wanted to create reviews lately because my heart hasn't been in it. I'm sure that'll cycle back around, and I'll have plenty of stuff to share with you at the time. I have Koi, I have Peerless, I have tons of colors to review for you guys. It's just a matter of getting that excitement back for reviews. So let me know what you guys want to see in the comments below this video so I can refer back to them, and I will make a priority. My patrons get to vote when a review does come up. Then they get to kind of choose which one comes next when I put a poll up. And also, I just want to put an asterisk here. I know this is a really long answer to the question. I'm missing a ton of the chat. But I'm also running the Color Spotlight series and the Brand by Brand series simultaneously, which is really exhausting for me, and that's why they've been coming out at a slower pace. I typically run one series at a time, and my patrons were amazing and unlocked both series, and so I'm running them in tandem with each other, but those two series take a lot of spoons and mental resources to work on. So those are educational. They all have to do with pigments, making palettes, things like that. And those are not going to stop anytime soon because I won't be caught up for quite a while. So, yeah, I missed a ton of the chat there. If anyone asked questions while I was answering that, feel free to repeat them. You guys are talking about white and watercolor, I think. But yeah, I don't anticipate running out of content anytime soon. If anything, I just keep getting more and more things added to my list of things to do. Tiffany nailed it. I use the white of the paper. I use white ink if I'm being lazy. I use white gouache if I'm not being lazy. Yeah, absolutely. Pacing is really key, and I want to make content that I'm proud of. I was happy to do the Inktober video that I did, and I don't regret making it. I think it was an important reality check for me, but some of you could probably tell I didn't love making that video, and I think I even talked about it in the video that it wasn't fun for me, and I was just stressed out the entire time, and it wasn't turning out the way I wanted it to. So I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be making content just because it's timely. Like Inktober was. I am working on Hovember right now, which if you don't know about it, it's a lesser known challenge, but during November you study different colors, and that's way more up my alley obviously than ink is. So I made my own prompt list over on Instagram that you can find if you want to follow along. I can show you, someone asked about it earlier, the dinosaur that I was working on. I can show you guys that. if you want to see it. This guy here with Pyrrol Green, and then I did some more skulls here. I'm behind because I haven't had enough time to be working on them, but I would love to do Umber like moving forward in the future, like just make that like an annual thing where I revisit colors and that type of thing, because I'm more passionate about those than I am about inks and things like that. So I think I'm much more in tune now with where I want to be going and what I want to be doing and what I want to be creating for you guys. Hopefully that helps. I love doing studio tours too, and I kept meaning to do one, but if I turned around this camera, it's just a disaster zone. So I swear the next time my studio is clean, even if that means right before I move out, I will take you on a studio tour, and I will do much better about the next place that I'm in. I will make sure that I get a proper studio tour up in a more timely manner. Hi Erin, welcome. Wow, we're at 150 right now. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Tori. I'm glad you like the skulls. I'm sorry I just stopped painting. There's so much happening in chat right now, and I'm so excited to see you guys. What is the brush pens that I use in the Inktober video? They are linked in the description, so if you can check that, they are there. All right, are we caught up? Hopefully. If it's any consolation, it's a very interesting video to watch. Oh, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that when I was doing the voiceover for the Inktober video, like, it definitely had purpose. I'm definitely glad that I did it. And I'm definitely glad that I didn't do all of Inktober. I think that's what I came away from that with, is that it was a learning experience, and not all learning experiences are positive, and that's fine. That's just as valuable, if not more valuable, than doing something that I was totally in love with. Thank you, Tiffany. Have I always been great at art, or do I take lessons? That's very sweet for one. I've always been artistic. So ever since I was young, I've been into art things. So when I was younger, I used to draw a lot. In college, I did a lot of charcoal work. I worked with acrylic and polymer clay, where I made little clay animals. You can see that in the AAC Tapir video if you want a closer look at them. So I've always been artistic. Watercolors kind of just came to me about 4.5, 5 years ago. I just wanted to learn how to do them and got obsessed with them, and and the rest is history. We're here now. So I'm big on self-research. I'm very self-motivated. I like watching video content. I'm terrible at reading blogs. I don't read well, not like literacy wise. I have an eye impediment and I have a neck impediment, so reading is difficult for me physically. So I don't read a lot of blogs, but if I can put something on the TV and watch, then I'm happy to learn that way. I soaked in every YouTube video like in existence when I first got into watercolor, which is excessive, but it was a lot of fun. Thanks for clarifying. The Umber, H-U-E, Umber is the challenge. And you can find over on Instagram at In Liquid Color. I've got a little story pin so you can see my list there. Aw, thank you guys. Thanks for the likes. I really appreciate it. It does help out the channel a lot. Let's have a painting party. Let's do it. If you are in Texas, well, Texas is big. If you're in the Austin-ish area, I do fully intend on having a meetup at some point. I just haven't organized it yet because I'm terrible. But keep your ears out for that. It'll probably be announced over both to my patrons and on Instagram when I decide to do that. So paint party. And then Tiffany, I'll come visit you and Natasha and everyone else over in the Pacific Northwest soonish. Dee Dee, I have the same thoughts for you on koi. I've used them. I have not done a review because I tend to stay away from doing reviews on things that I don't love. I have no problem telling you guys if there's a supply that I don't like. Making a video is a lot of effort, and it seems like a waste of time for me to review something I don't enjoy when I could be reviewing something that I do enjoy. I'll never refuse to answer your questions about a specific product, but I'd rather not say bad things about companies when it's not necessary. What is my favorite color in the Imgram line of watercolors? My most used colors in the Imgram line are Anthraquinone Blue and Tera Rosa, which we'll get to, and I use those in conjunction with each other. I also really like the ceruleans. They have two different ceruleans. They have a PB36 and a PB35. So you've got the more traditional cerulean here and a little bit greener version here. What color is beside PB14? There's PB14, PB15, PB23. Yeah, exactly what Tori said. It's exhausting to make a review on something that we don't like because reviews take a lot of effort, and if you're not excited about it, it's just sucking your energy from you the whole time. And I also there's no reason for me to badmouth someone. There's other people who like using those products, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem answering your questions about brands. I don't like to do reviews that are super negative if they're not completely warranted, you know. If there's a reason or comparison, I'm happy to, but white nights are wonderful and gorgeous. They're great. I thought their dioxazine was PB37. I don't know PB37. What's PB37? I'm gonna look it up because now I'm curious. Do I find basically the question's asking, do I have palettes that are all of one brand? I do have palettes that are all of one brand, like this Imgram palette, but that's for review purposes to make sure that they're all in the same place. I also have mixed palettes that are just my favorite colors, and I use them together. No problem at all. All right, I'm looking it up. PB37. Huh, it is listed on the handprint as Imgram's dioxazine. Okay, well now I'm gonna look at Imgram's website. Did I just make up numbers? Oh, I'm sorry, were you looking for the word? Yeah, it's Ultramarine Violet Deep is PB15. That's the name of the color. Thanks, Tiffany. I think Koi is praised a lot because it's an entry-level paint and like it's very commonly available and there's a lot of colors, but again, I answered earlier in this video that I prefer quality over quantity, and I would rather have fewer colors of higher quality. I think either Dan about PV37, I think either that was a misprint or maybe they used a different pigment before and they've reformulated. Their website says PV23, and every other dioxazine I've ever worked with is PV23. So yeah, I think handprint is maybe just out of date. Handprint hasn't been updated for a long time. Like they don't have any core colors on there. And a lot of the other ones, if formulas have changed, I don't think it's kept up. Shots fired in the chat. All right, let me get back on track here. We need Phthalo Blue green shade, and this is where I have to be careful because I did reorganize one of the colors and then I forgot to put it on the list, so it's not in the right place. I'm running out of spots, guys, to dilute my paint here. That's another thing I'll just answer if you have this question, if you're newer to watercolors. The reason I'm swatching them out on the lid here instead of going straight to the paper is that Imgram in particular is really heavily pigmented. And if I go straight from the pan onto my paper, I'm going to end up with chunks of pigment that are not blended out nicely. So I dilute them a little bit on the palette so that I get a nicer gradient on the chart. So they have both a green shade and a red shade for Phthalo Blue. So the red shade is here, and that's PB15:0, and then this is PB15:3. Red shades of Phthalo Blue can be made from PB15:1, 0, or 6. I've seen all three. Hilda, what are you painting along with? What are you working on today? I agree, Christy. I think White Nights are so affordable that I would start there. The only thing with that is I don't love the White Nights sets. They have a lot of colors that I don't find super useful. So I love the recommendation of making your own watercolor palette from them, but that's a lot for a new beginner. So I do recommend them. I think they're great. I love them open stock. If you take my Skillshare class on creating your own custom palette, you can pick out colors that you would like and order those. They're available on Jackson's now too. You don't even have to get them from eBay anymore, which is what I did. So they're there if you want them. That's also true. Some people want to buy locally versus online, and Koi is available in just about any art store. So that's probably another reason why they're very popular. All right, Phoebe, have fun. A lot of these brands have never even seen them. What factors would cause a pigment name to no longer be listed in the color index? I don't know. The colon signifies, Christine asked, what does the colon signify? So a lot of pigments are just like PG7, but sometimes there's a pigment in, like, I don't know the chemical structure of it, but they're like very closely related. So PB15, if it just says PB15, it could be any of the variants of PB15, but there's 6 or 7, I guess, 7 different variants of PB15, and the colon is just like a type of that pigment. How am I settling into Texas? I'm trying. It's mostly good. I have had a really, really serious bout of homesickness in the last month or so, which I'm not gonna lie has partially contributed to why I haven't been around YouTube as much. I've just been feeling very melancholy, and it's been hard to throw myself into my work, but I think I'm pulling up out of that, so that's good. It was extremely hot here forever until like the last month. We had 4 months straight of 90+ degree temperatures, often over 100 degrees, which is an adjustment. I mean, I much prefer it, or my body much prefers it to the cold, but that has been hard to get used to. There's not really a fall, although we've got a couple colder days, but I got to see some friends recently, and a friend of mine moved to Houston, so I get to see them pretty often, and slowly but surely I'm settling in. It's just been an adjustment. Steven, that's a good point. The PV19s don't have colons, but they're all treated differently, because you can have PV19s that range from red to pink to violet, and you're right, they're not classified differently. Same thing with the PVR7. So come to think of it, I don't know why the Phthalo Blues have the different colon numbers. I think it's not the only one, it's the most common one in watercolors. I know there's some others that I've seen that are more dye-based. Oh, good point. Maybe it has to do with when the brands alter them, though they are available across different types of brands. All right, so this is where I forgot to put in Cobalt Teal. Cobalt Teal, I'm sorry. You beautiful, beautiful color, you're down here. Cobalt Teal, I did a color spotlight on. You can learn more about that if you're curious about the PB28. A lot of Cobalt Teals are made from PG50. Others are made from PB28, which is the same as Cobalt Blue. Thanks, Tiffany. I'm trying to stay hydrated. Got my water here. In Florida, there's the rainy season and the tourist season. Yeah, maybe. And hi, Daniel. It's good to see you. Daniel suggested that it is a chemical alteration versus a physical change. I have no idea. I don't know chemistry. I'm not a pigment scientist. I just like them a lot and research when I can. I'm rusty though, can you tell? I'm very rusty on my pigment lore. I let it lapse for too long. I should have cleaned my palette. We're out of space. Although it looks so pretty, I've got like a whole rainbow going on here. All right, thanks for coming by, Dahlia. Have a good day. Where can you buy? Can't or can? There's only a couple companies that offer the really purpley PV19. I think Core offers a very, very, very purpley one. I think Daniel Smith offers one now. I could be wrong on that. I don't mean to tempt you, Dan. And I love that you said that right as we get to Veridian, which is the only palette, the only color in the entire palette that has dried hard. So I'm gonna let that sit for just a second while we skip on over to PG36. And I forgot to clear off the thing again. What's wrong with me? All right. Do I have any experience using DS's Moonglow? I have used DS's Moonglow like in swatches. I've never used it in a painting, and I just painted the wrong thing. And it's a staining color, so good luck me trying to get that off. I'm not a huge fan of the Moonglow. It's not my preference. I'd rather like mix colors on my palette that give kind of similar granulating effects. That's just gonna stay there. There's nothing I can do about that. That's what I get for trying to skip a color. I do recommend, just in general, I recommend upgrading your paper before your paints. I think you'll get a lot more enjoyment upgrading your paper before your paints. I know it's not as fun, it's not as flashy, it's not as exciting, but even lower quality paints can look and feel really good on a high quality paper. Oh, interesting, Ellen. What's the red pigment in the Moonglow? I know that there is one. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Are there any colors comparable to DS's Quin Coral? Can you remember what the pigment number is? I think that they use a different, is it, I think it's PR209, right? If it's PR209, M. Graham has it right here. Sorry for the squeak. And that's one of the reasons why it's good to know pigment numbers versus pigment names. I get that question a lot from newer artists because common names change from brand to brand. Like Phthalo Green is often called Veridian, even though that's not actually the actual color that it is. So you might be duplicating colors if you don't know what pigment they're made from. And then vice versa, there are pigment numbers we've been talking about in chat that look different based on how they're processed. So just because it's the same pigment number doesn't mean it will always be that same hue. But I don't think there are more versions of PR209. I think that's a pretty streamlined color, and they pretty much all look about the same. At least the ones that I've seen. Oh, they're Quinacridone PR177. Interesting. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I have my entire swatch collection has been disassembled because I'm working on scanning them in for an online resource that I'm way behind on, but they're not in my normal swatch book, so they're not easy to find at the moment. But I will be able to have that information for you hopefully soonish. Question: I just purchased my first stainless smooth tube paints. 39 of them. Awesome. I would, for that many colors, I would probably just get like a 48 palette like this one. If you don't like the half pans, if you prefer wells, then some of the Magello palettes hold, I think, like up to 33 or something like that. Moonglow is made from PR176. That's Carmine, I believe. And I didn't have issues with Carmine fading in my window test, so that's interesting. Okay, was I right then? It is PR209. Oh, okay. Sorry, I got confused. So Quin Coral by DS is PR209. I was right, so that's this one. And then PR177 is the one for Moonglow. So I don't know PR177 as well as I know PR176. PR176 didn't fade in my light fastness test because I have that on my main palette. I don't know the other one better. All right, back on track. Let's get this Veridian on here. My hair is doing crazy things. It's like poofing out to the side of the world. Try and get that under control. Get our delicate little Veridian here. I will say that M. Graham's version of Veridian is pretty dang strong as far as this color goes. A lot of brands have a pretty weak pigment for this color. It is a granulating color. It's like Phthalo Green, but softer and granulating. I believe this is Cobalt Green. So this is made from PG50. This is the same pigment number that some other Cobalt Teals are made with. Did Ellen just suggest a larger palette for you? Nice excuse to buy more colors. I haven't gotten to set up a new palette in quite a while. I think the last one I set up was for my Skillshare class on palette creation. I would love to know from you guys in chat, colors like Permanent Green Light, I don't understand it. Are there some of you who use this color super often and you find that the convenience of having it pre-mixed is worth it? Because I feel like it's very similar to Phthalo Green and that I'd rather just have, you know, PG7 or PY51 on my palette and mix them together. It's not a natural, like a supernatural color, so not supernatural, but like it's not a very natural color. So I can see like Sap Green because I can use it straight from the palette onto the page as a convenience color. I don't understand this color. I never have understood bright greens from tubes, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. Congratulations! Tiffany, that's amazing. Congratulations. Have a wonderful afternoon and congratulations on your new house. Super exciting. Let me know when I can come visit. The only premix green that you like is Flush Green? Flush Green. What does that translate to? I don't know what color that is. The Cobalt Green is more opaque than I thought. Yes, it is very opaque. It's similar to a Chromium Oxide Green, except it's a little bit more blue and it's a little more granulating. Why is this why is this the first I'm hearing of the Flush Green? Oh, it's a handmade paint. Okay. I know of Amy's work, but okay, just making sure I'm not totally crazy here. Shouldn't Perm Green Light be a tad lighter? It's pretty bright as opposed to deep, I guess. You'll see when I put Hooker's Green next to it. Like the Hooker's Green is much darker. And I actually prefer their Hooker's Green to their Sap Green. I think it's a prettier color. I like May Green, but because it mixes well with bright orange. Those are my two least favorite watercolor colors. It's funny. To each their own. And I love that we have options. I love that I don't have to have them on my palette. This next one is Sap Green. It's a little bit flat, not quite as luscious. It is Sap Green in hue. It's just more opaque than most versions, and it dries a little bit flatter. I can see it for graphic illustration for sure. Oh, interesting. It comes in several of their sets. Yeah, I just don't get it. I get real sad when colors like that come in sets. I'm like, I'd rather have the versatility of a single pigment. Or if the two colors from the mix are already existent in the same set, then it makes me sad because I already have those colors and it could have been used on something else. Here is Steve from the Mind of Watercolors, one of his favorite paint colors, as a green. Daniel's come to like M. Sap Green. I could see it for florals. I can see it. Okay, I'm hard on Sap Greens. You guys know this about me because I love Daniel Smith so much, but I can see it as a useful color in a painting. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to use it. I just think that the luminosity of Daniel Smith is so much prettier, and I would rather use that one instead. But M. does cost a lot less, so I get it. Why do I put my paints separate on my palette, but yours stay put? Oh, the pans? I can't demonstrate on this one because I'm gonna get paint all over my hands, but you wanna make sure that you're putting them in the palette the correct way. So when you have a palette, you've got the short end and then the tall end. You wanna put the pan into the short end first and then click it into the back end. This should be tight enough that when you click it in, it doesn't move. And then they won't go anywhere. A lot of people will pull this tab back and like push it into the tab first. I think that's what you're asking, hopefully. If not, I just answered a non-question. My swatches look clean and nice. How do you stop them from being muddy and gross? I have 2 cups of water. So dirty water, clean water, making sure that you're doing that. And I make sure that I rinse my paintbrush out in between colors, and then I make sure to dilute them here and not stick my fingers in paints. Oh, where I mix them. It just depends. So there are other palettes that do not look like this. So like, it just depends on the palette, but you just clean them off if it looks dirty. Yeah, this one's a good example of just a mess. I would recommend John Muir Laws. I have to dig a bit. It's not super easy to find if you don't know what you're looking for, but John Muir Laws is a nature journaler, and he has a really cool post on his blog. It's a setup with, it's one of the palettes, like the really simple plastic palettes that has 3 mixing areas, and he uses 1 to mix oranges, 1 to mix greens, 1 to mix purples, and that way he always uses them for those things. He never cross-contaminates them so that they're not going to end up being muddy. And then he has another area on the lid of that for browns and then for neutrals. So if you keep designated areas for those colors, even if you're mixing different hues of that same color, they should stay the same for you. I know I missed a bunch of the chat again. I'm sorry. All right, did I miss any questions? You can re-ask them if you want. Welcome, welcome to anyone new viewing. We're at over 150 people in the chat watching live. Thank you for being here. How's my stash of PO49? It is good. No, I still have plenty. I think I was able to purchase 2 tubes before they went out of stock, and then I had 2 different people send me tubes that they found as well, which was incredibly wonderful and sweet of them. And then I had another person later on send me like a partially used tube. So I'm pretty good. I feel a little greedy, but I'm gonna hold on and cherish them and just enjoy my time with them. That's the other thing though that makes me really sad, is like using some of my favorite colors. I don't get to do it very often on the channel because I don't want to show you guys colors that you can't use, right? So like I have all this PO49 and I can use them in personal projects, but if I'm recording for Patreon and doing a tutorial, or if I'm doing videos for YouTube, I can't really use them because they're not something you can still get. I mean, you could use the hue, but it feels a little cocky to be like, oh, I'm using the original, but you can use the hue. Does that make sense? If I'm using it in a tutorial, I'll either use the hue or I'll state that I'm using the PO49, but it's not usually a prominent color. I think I hold myself back from doing that, and I wish that I could use it a little bit more often, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Maybe. I realize I haven't stretched my back at all. Should sit up straight. Do I have olive green around there? Not in this brand. I have it in Schmincke. Olive green and sap green, though, are not pigment colors. They are approximations based on a company's preference for hue. So they'll vary from brand to brand. As I mentioned before, I'm way behind, so I don't want to say this in like false pretense or anything, but I am working on an online swatch database. Once everything is entered, it'll go live to the public, but in the meantime, my patrons have access to the colors that I've already done. I've only done yellows and oranges right now. Reds are next on my to-do list, and they get access to those as soon as they are ready. So if you want to pop on over to Patreon, even just for $1, you'd have access to that as they come up, and then whenever I get around to finishing it, it'll be live on my website for everyone to see. I'm glad you guys like the PY129. I think it looks terrible on its own, but it's a wonderful mixer. It's beautiful for that. I have glycerin. How much should I put in? I missed the original question for the glycerin. I don't know what color you're adding it to. I do have a video on it, though, that's real old and embarrassing if you want to watch it. Is it common for M grams PB60 to have consistency, streaky texture, even if painted really diluted? It has a weird texture. I wouldn't say necessarily streaky. If you're having streaks, I would mix it like on a palette surface to break up the pigments. It does have like this weird granulation aspect to it, which has made me kind of back off. When I first started using it, I was like, I love this color, everyone use this color. And then I was like, oh, Da Vinci has a version that is almost just as saturated, the blue, but it doesn't have that texture to it. So if you want something with less granulation, you can look towards another brand. But this one has an interesting texture. It shouldn't streak on you though. So Dee Dee asking about the palette again and how not to make mud on your palette. I actually have to clean my palettes off to do tutorials. So that's another thing that I kind of wish that I was just a regular painter sometimes, because I can't like use the mixes that are already on my palettes. I have to clean them off because when I'm doing a tutorial, people want to know what I'm mixing, and I can't just be like, oh, there's this mixture of colors that was there from the last time I painted. I'll do that if it's like a really close hue. I'll be like, oh, there's just some leftover paint, but I'll just pick it up and use it. But yeah, just if you don't want it to be muddy, the only thing you can do is clean it off every time, or get really precise at mixing your colors and making sure that once you have an orange mixed, you don't introduce any blue to it, because that'll neutralize it. The video that I have on the channel that's older is both on honey and glycerin. I did a comparison. I don't do that to any of my paints these days, except like Daniel Smith's French Ultramarine. I'll mix a little bit of honey into before I let it dry. Why do the pigments separate in the puddle? Which color are you referring to? So sometimes when you're mixing two colors together, like cerulean and Tera Rosa, for instance, those colors have a tendency to both granulate, and you'll both granulate into their separate colors, which I think looks really, really cool. Some colors do that, some colors don't. It just depends on the way that those two pigments interact with each other and if they're different brands and that kind of thing. Thanks, Natasha. I appreciate it. You guys are so awesome. What did I do to deserve you? Such kind people. All right, let's keep going. We got our last row to finish up here. So M. Graham has a line of transparent blank iron oxide. So there's a transparent yellow iron oxide, which I think looks terrible, but I've heard it's useful in mixes. There is a 2-pigment transparent orange iron oxide, which is this one here, which is just this one, I assume, mixed with the red one that we'll see in a little bit. This is kind of like a light burnt sienna type color. Aw, thanks, honey mama. That's a username, not me making up nicknames for people in chat. I'm glad that you like the videos. All right, we're coming down to our last final stretch. We got 9 more colors. Feel free to get in any questions before we wrap up the stream. It's been really great hanging out with you guys. I miss this a lot. This is Quinacridone Burnt Orange, but they call theirs Quinacridone Rust. And if I remember correctly, their version of this color has a weird granulating property if it's mixed with certain types of water based on like the mineral content, I think. It didn't do well back home in San Jose. I don't know, I haven't used it here, so I don't know how it'll interact with the tap water here. What are you doing the palette for this brand? When are you doing the palette for this brand? Oh, the brand by brand series for M. Graham. My patrons get to vote on that. So every time that a new episode is coming up, I will give them the next couple that are to pick from, and they'll pick which one they want to see first. I think the next one that we're supposed to do is Sennelier. I was supposed to do it already, and I didn't. I'm sorry. It's coming though, and then they'll get to vote. I've been trying to alternate between US brands and European brands. So the next one after Sennelier will be a US brand, and patrons will get to vote on like Core, Imgram. I think those are the last two in the US. I could be wrong. Thank you all for being so awesome in the chat. You guys have been just a pleasure today. It's been great. Hi, Joy. What's the difference between PY42 and PY43? They are different. There's a synthetic yellow ochre and a natural iron, a natural yellow ochre. If you look on, it's part of my Color Spotlight series. It's in the playlist, but it's on Sadie Saves the Day's channel. We did a collaboration where I had one of her videos on my channel on painting white in watercolor, not painting with white, but painting white things. And then on her channel, I have the yellow ochre Color Spotlight. So if you missed that one, I haven't watched it in a while, but I think we talk about the differences there. They're very similar. One is natural, one is synthetic. I'm fine with either. Lee is talking about the water hardness. I want to amend it. Water hardness enhances the effect, but it's an Imgram thing generally. Interesting. Okay, good to know. So the issues like with Anthraquinone Blue and Rust, the Quinacridone Rust, Lee Angold is saying that might be an innate property of Imgram, but also is enhanced or exacerbated by water hardness. We are 90 minutes in. We're just finishing up. Andromeda, it's good to see you here, but we just have one more line before we're going to be wrapping up here. What color am I on? Six. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm getting the right color so we don't have a mistake again. Imgram underbinds some of their finest synthetic organic pigments, which makes them vibrant but prone to clumping. Great to know, and that makes total sense. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. I just don't got that monies to be using distilled water for all my paintings. I also already hate that I have to buy distilled water I have a CPAP machine, so I have to use distilled water for that, and I hate all the plastic jugs. And I've looked at like the water refill stations, but I've never been able to find distilled water as an option there. It's always like filter or spring or something like that. But, oh well. I just use tap water though for my watercolor paintings. It either works or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, I find a different brand to use. Rhodonite is a Primatech color, yes. All right, we're coming up to probably my favorite useful color. Like the hue isn't necessarily my favorite, but I absolutely love the way it looks in wildlife paintings, and that's Tera Rosa. It is Imgram's version of Indian Red. So this is another thing where like the naming doesn't reflect the pigment most of the time. If you have Indian Red from another company, it's probably very similar to this color. I just started using Tera Rosa before any other Indian Red and fell in love with it. So I have a special place in my heart for it. Very opaque color, mixes beautifully with Cerulean and Anthraquinone Blue separately to either get a dark gray or a light gray that kind of separates out and does this really cool thing. Eddie, hi, welcome. This is part of a series that you might not have seen before if you're new to the channel called Swatch with Me. So this is every color of Imgram paint that I own. We swatch out the colors so that you can see what, I didn't explain that at the top of this video, I'm sorry. So if you haven't seen this series, the intent of it is to show you the colors that I have. I don't have the full line for Imgram, but it's a buying help guide. Like it's not buy all these colors, it's here they all are next to each other so you can see which ones you like and which ones you don't like. I put the scans over on my Patreon after the fact so that you can look them up and you can see the actual calibrated color realistic one. That gives you a little bit better idea than maybe an online swatch chart would, depending on the company. Core has an amazing online database of colors and everything, but some of the other brands don't have super, super accurate ones. So it's just it's a tool for you to use. Sorry, I lost some of the chat in that. So it's just every M color that I own, which is 49 colors, and it's so that you can make better buying decisions and not be tempted by every single color, but just the ones that will help you out in your painting adventures. There is a playlist on the channel if you want to go back and watch the other ones. I started this series as it was called Swatch with Me, and I was using cellulose paper because at the time I didn't think it was going to make that big of a difference. And then when I realized it would make a huge difference, I was like, oh, I need to go back and redo these on cotton paper so that I can give a more accurate depiction of what these are. So this is technically the second time that I've done this for M, but it'll be a much more accurate presentation because the first version was not very good. I'll actually show you that. I have them somewhere. I'll try and find them before I turn off the stream so you can see the difference between the cellulose paper and the cotton paper. Now, M doesn't have a tremendous range of earth tones. They do have all those oxide pigments, which is really cool. But if you like granulating earthy versions of earth colors, it's probably not the brand for you. But yes. What is the one labeled TR iron oxide? So it's transparent red iron oxide. Transparent red iron oxide, transparent orange iron oxide, transparent yellow iron oxide. I just don't have enough space to put them all. Hello, sorry, I'm scrolling back just a little bit. I missed a bunch of that. Hello to Costa Rica. I do still use the Mission White class occasionally. They're not opaque without their white, so you need to mix them together. They're kind of just like watercolors without it. How the heck do I get a tube of paint to not explode after opening a new tube? Let it settle to room temperature for one, because a lot of times in transit they'll change temperatures, and it depends on the paint. So don't squeeze it before you open it, obviously, and some of them are just gonna do it, some of them don't, but most of them shouldn't. It might also be an altitude thing. If you live up high, it might just be an altitude thing. How do I get scans to behave accurate representation of the color? If you go to the description of this video, there is a link to my Amazon shop, and in my equipments tab, I have the scanner that I use. I haven't done anything to it. I've used it out of the box with the profiles. It's an amazing scanner. I don't even think it was that expensive. I want to say it was just over $100. I mean, I know it's expensive, but not for a scanner. And then there's only a couple colors that it doesn't pick up well. Pyrrol Green is one of them. It always is the wrong color, but for the most part, it'll be mostly accurate. And then I just use Photoshop to do a couple of tweaks to make it look a little bit more polished. Natasha, thank you for linking Otto's Permatex series. She has a wonderful Permatex series. I'm not really interested in doing that because I don't use them all that often. And I don't like to make content about things that I'm not well versed in. I feel like a scam artist when I do that. How do... Oh, that's the same question I already read. Aw, thanks, Bev. Sorry you don't have any energy. I hope you feel better, but I'm glad that the video could be a little bit of a help to that. Yeah, Ellen, I don't know what it is about the color, but Pyrrol Green just does not get along with the scanner. They are not friends. So another thing with M is that their burnt umber is kind of like, I mean, it's still technically burnt umber, but it almost looks like a dark burnt sienna. It's not quite as deep as some other brands have of the same color. Yeah, Pyrrol Green always has like this red cast to it, so I just correct it to be a little bit cooler and can get it to balance out. Thank you, Photoshop. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you like the content. All right, final stretch here. We've got raw umber, which is a cooler brown, but it's not as cool as some companies' versions. Sorry for the palette rattle. Did I finish my thought earlier? I know I started saying it, but I was saying that Graham, the earth tones are great if you want like flat earth tones that don't granulate, but for me and how much I love granulation, they're not my favorite. I think they do the bright colors better, and like I said, they're really good with the blues and the greens. Do you recommend any book or course to improve my drawing fundamentals? I feel bad saying it because I've already mentioned it a couple times, but I have a couple of really in-depth Skillshare classes that I've worked really, really hard on in terms of color theory and color mixing that I think are really helpful for beginners, and they have really good reviews from the community. So if you're able to, it's $10 or $15 a month, depending on if you do monthly or not, and you can get free trials on pretty much any Skillshare video on YouTube. They do a lot of promotions. It's the same price as you would pay for a book, and if you do well with video learning, I think it's a really, really great tool. I learn best that way. I can't really recommend a book because, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, it's painful physically for me to read with my body the way that it is, so I prefer video learning. So Skillshare has been a tremendous resource for me. I recommend YouTube videos. There's lots here that you can look into. There's other online academies as well that I'm not as familiar with, but they exist. Ian, at first I was like, what is he saying? And then I realized that you were commenting on when I said flat earth tone. I didn't mean flat earth theory. If that's what you're alluding to, I just meant non-granulating. How do I clean a paintbrush in water when painting with watercolors? Do I push the brush to the bottom or just shake the brush in water? I should just shake the brush in water. I almost always touch it to the bottom, and then I'm mad at myself for ruining the tips of my brushes. Do I think M. Graham's PBR7s are more opaque than Daniel Smith's? No. They're just different. Like, if you look, these two colors are really similar to each other. I think they both look like dark burnt siennas. This one doesn't really look as red as I'd expect a burnt sienna to, and this one isn't as dark as I'd expect the burnt umber to be. This is actually drying more cool, so that's kind of okay. It's a preference. I prefer Daniel Smith's earth tones to almost any other brand, but it's just personal preference. Thank you, Christine and Joy and Karen. You guys are all awesome. I know that a lot of people on YouTube don't want me, not me personally, they don't want people promoting paid sources, and I just don't know how else to say it other than I put like a month worth of effort into each of those classes, and it's way more than I could ever produce on YouTube because YouTube does not pay. There's some ad revenue, but it's like the tiniest amount. Skillshare has been incredibly good to me, and they make my job possible. And so I also think as a student who has used Skillshare, like I took an in-person class when I lived in San Jose, and that was wonderful, and I still talk to the woman that taught me there, and I met wonderful people, and so all of that is wonderful, but it was also very expensive. So for the free trials that you can get through the promotions that they do, and then the $10 or $15 a month, like you really cannot beat that if you're going to pay for education of any kind. So I'm not just saying it as a teacher of the platform, I'm saying it as a student as well. And I just think it's a really cool resource. And yes, you have to dig for some of like the more polished classes, but they have really invested in their top teachers program. And anything with a top teachers badge are, they're people that Skillshare works with and make sure that their quality of the content is to the standards that they want them to be, and that they're interactive with their students, that they give feedback and all that stuff. So I really love it. It's not just because they pay me, which makes my job possible. I just genuinely believe in their platform, and it makes me happy. It's suddenly hot here. Oh no. More Skillshare classes, yep. So my current schedule is going to be aiming for one class every quarter. So every 3 months. I'm hoping to have this next class by the end of November, but it might get pushed a little bit into December. But absolutely, Skillshare is hugely responsible for most of my paycheck these days, along with Patreon. So I will absolutely be invested more on their platform and continue to make high quality classes that hopefully you guys enjoy watching. So. Oh, awesome, Ellen. Congratulations. She joined a year. I want to ask them about that because I do get to give away some free memberships as part of being part of the Top Teachers program. So before the end of the year happens, I want to check in with them. I was thinking about that earlier today, literally this morning. And maybe we can do a giveaway for some memberships. Oh, thank you so much. That's right. I keep mentioning the mixing and the palette creation, but I also did the, how could I forget, the water control class. That class almost drove me insane, but I'm really, 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 really proud of it. It was hard, it was backbreaking, it was almost soul crushing to work on, but there's an immense feeling of accomplishment once I finally finished, and I'm really glad that it's there for the community to take. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. I was just gonna tell you about the neutral tint, Hannah. So Hannah asked how I like the neutral tint. It is my favorite neutral tint. And part of the reason it's my favorite neutral tint is that it's only made with 2 colors. It's made with PV19 and PG7. Makes a beautiful dark black color. Doesn't have a black pigment in it. For me, the reason that that's important is that I don't have anything against black paint and watercolor, but a lot of the blacks are not super eco-friendly. So you've got bone black, which is made from charred animal bones, which is a byproduct of the meat industry. So use it if you want to. I just don't want to use animal bones in my painting. It's a personal preference. And then the lamp blacks create a lot of pollution because to get the lamp black, you have to burn oil in large quantities. So at first, when I didn't think about that last part, I used the lamp blacks, but didn't use the bone blacks, and now I just prefer to stay away from them if I can. And so I love that Imgram has a version that doesn't include a black pigment, and I just feel like it's a really clean color. It mixes really nicely. You can mix it on your own if you have those 2 colors, which I actually did on, someone asked earlier in the stream about my Mission White class palette. I actually made a black with those 2 colors because I didn't like the black that came in the set, or the black-like colors that came in the set, so I highly, highly recommend it. The neutral tint is not granulating. It is 2 non-granulating colors. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm so glad you liked the water control class. I'm so glad it was well received after how hard I worked on it, because it would have crushed me if no one watched it. So I'm really glad that you all enjoyed it. The neutral tint is not neutral itself. It makes neutral mixes. So neutral tint is to tint other colors. It will do funny things with yellows. It'll tend to make them more green usually. But if you mix it with another color, it should deepen that color without pulling too much of the saturation away. So neutral tints vary from being like almost black to being more purple to being more blue. Like they vary depending on the brand, and everyone has a different preference of what that looks like. So yeah, it won't be a neutral black color most of the time itself, but it can help with other colors to make them darker. It's also a really nice cheat for like just a quick black. I love having neutral tint on my palette so that I can just use it as a quick color for like irises, where I don't have to mix it up, or dark noses, things like that. What PV19 do I use to make your own neutral tint? So I've only done it once in the Mission White palette. I just used, the gouache hybrid set. I just used the PV19 that was in that set, which was a rose color, and then a PG7. So I don't have a ton of experience putting it into watercolor palettes because I usually just buy neutral tint and plop it in there, but Ian, if you could not use caps in chat, that would be awesome, because I just don't want it to get flagged on accident. All right, so we finished up. I'm caught up on chat. We're going to take a look at our colors because we haven't done that in the video itself. And I also want to show you what the cellulose ones look like. So yeah, Dan also mentioned the blacks of Perylene Green and Perylene Violet. It's a gorgeous one. I love it. Okay, so here's the difference between the cellulose and the cotton paper. They're not spaced the same way, so there's like a second page over here. But you'll see that these ones are sometimes more vibrant, but they're streaky, they're kind of chunky. They really show off that characteristic we were talking about, where they tend to do this like shelving thing, where there's like chunks of pigment that are stuck in some areas, whereas on the cotton paper, you don't get that. Some of them actually granulate a little bit more heavily on the cellulose paper and a little less so over here. But I just kind of wanted to show you the differences so that if you're having trouble with streaking, if you're having trouble with colors not laying down properly, I just want to show you the difference so that you can start investing in paper, because I truly do believe that it's more important than the pigments. We talk about the pigments on the channel because it's the most fun, but paper is more important, and I will always say that paper is more important. The texture is huge, especially in these, and I believe it was when I was doing this particular swatch with me video that I was like, engrams aren't supposed to look like that, and so that's when I was like, I have to redo this series and we've got to do it on cotton paper because it's just totally different. I totally forgot we were going to do another glaze on the Quin Red and the Cadmium Orange because they got really washed out for some reason, and they're not that light in real life. Let me do that real quick before I forget again. Am I on camera? Learning the limitations with this new setup. We're just finishing up. And then we need the Quin Red, which is right here. Any other ones that you see that are like really not saturated the way they're supposed to be? Maybe that Pyrrol Red. Thanks, Kelly. Have a good day. Thanks for stopping by. All right, I think that's it. Do you see any others? I will say that Ingram's reds, the PR254 and the PR112, those do tend to be a little bit more opaque than I have seen in other brands. So that is something to note. And then let me just show you this one right here for the second set. I guess we can stack these, right? It'll be better for you. Yes, please upgrade your paper before your paint. It's important. We should do a PSA on this and just make sure that you you invest in the supplies that'll take your art to the next level. I truly, truly, truly believe that paper is important. So the best paints can look terrible on crappy paper, and not great paints can look so much better if you use cotton. So I hope that this was helpful. I really, really, really love hanging out with you guys. It was really refreshing. Had a little over a 2-hour stream here, and thank you guys for being here, and thank you for all your support even through my absences. I hope to be back more regularly starting next week with the AAC video, and I'm just really grateful for all of you. Thank you so much, Pat. That means so much to me. I really appreciate it. Every time you share or anything like that. Yes, Stephen mentioned that Mind of Watercolor has videos on cotton paper and cellulose paper. That's absolutely true. Thank you, Christine and Daniel and Ellen and Christine and just everyone in chat. I can't name you all, but I'm seeing who who pops up here. If I have Pyrrol Red, is there any need for Cadmium Red or close to it? I don't find a need for them. Some people might. People who work with florals more often might have a more use for a variety of reds, but I hardly ever use a warm red anyway, so I tend to put one on my palettes. Thank you, Natasha, for helping to moderate. Thank you to my other moderators. Tiffany, who already had to leave, was doing a ton of work earlier in the chat. Thank you guys so much for your help. And I will see you in the next video.